This is the Running Channel podcast with me, Sarah Hartley, Rick Kelsey and Olympian Andy Baddeley, who's not only told me that he fancies his chances competing at Hyrox, he thinks he can be crowned world champion.
That's absolutely not what I said. Don't try and stitch me up.
Did he say that? To be honest with you, until recently, I'm not exactly sure that I knew what Hyrox was. I thought it might be a skincare product.
No, not quite. It is the in thing right now in the world of fitness, and it's essentially a combination of functional workouts and a lot of running, and Andy thinks he can be world champ. I'm not letting this go.
Brilliant. Well, we're actually going to talk about how important running is in this new, I'd say fad, but it's not. It's incredibly popular. Ooh. So it's a combination of gym exercises and running. We're going to go into exactly what it is, but also talk about whether being a runner makes you better at Hyrox or whether Hyrox might make you a better runner.
Interesting. Yeah, we're going to go through all of that. Plus, we will be answering your questions and covering the news. And Rick has a present to open. So let's dive in.
So when I came in today, there was a present on the desk in Christmas paper wrapping.
And this is not from me, nor is it from Sarah?
No, this is from someone we met out in Malaga.
Oh, wow.
So
should we be? Is this family friendly?
Yeah, it is. So this
duck.
is a marathon duck.
Oh, it's
for
like a
your
rubber
hot
bath time
tub.
duck.
Oh,
So this is from Michael and Liz.
Oh, my friends from South Africa.
Yeah, and they've got you this duck for your hot tub. And
Have
it's
they sent this over from Johannesburg?
So sorry, what makes this? Because it's got a bib on it.
Yeah,
it's a
obviously
duck with a bib.
it's dressed up ready for a run.
It's got a
watch on,
and it's sweating. It's got a little bead of sweat down its forehead.
I think
this
it's
is
carrying
a
a
lovely
cup
little yellow,
as well.
Your little yellow rubber duck.
Thank you very much. This will make my hot tub.
I think as well. You are gonna have. Is your hot tub on at the moment, or is it
it's
still
too
on?
cold, too expensive.
All right. Well, on the
You're too tight.
the first day you turn it back on, we need a picture.
Yeah, I'll put it on in March. That will go in with me. Thank you very much to both of you.
Such
That's lovely.
a good present. I love it.
I'm still not going to run a marathon, but thank you for the pressure. Yeah.
Keep piling on the pressure, guys. We're cracking it.
So we're going to be talking about gym and Hyrox and all of the other stuff that is way outside our comfort zones. But I want to know what you guys have been up to, because I think you had a fun challenge to do last week. Is that right?
Yeah.
We did.
It was,
well, I say you had a fun challenge to do. Rick, how hard was the element of the challenge for you?
Well, I put the effort in. I got there.
Rick commentated on our challenge. He did absolutely no running. I think he spent more time playing football on the running track than he did running.
We went to St Albans to do a challenge on the track, and if you've ever been to St Albans track, it's a 6-lane track except for the sprinting lanes, which have 8 lanes, and it's just set kind of at the bottom of the hill below St Albans Cathedral. It's beautiful.
So that is where I did so much of my training during my career, and we've joked about. I love that you were like, it's 6 lanes. You looked me eye there because I said that.
It's literally the whole day. I was like, look, guys, it's only 6 lanes.
It feels
and
smaller.
Everyone was like, huh.
But it feels. Make a note next time you go to a bigger track.
I don't think I've been on enough tracks to notice the difference. But the challenge,
it was frozen when we got there, so we couldn't see the track.
It was very snowy.
Oh wow!
But the grip was actually incredible, and luckily we weren't doing like an all-out sprint challenge. So Rick went and did a safety lap. Gathered that it was okay for us to go, and the challenge that we were doing was a heart rate challenge. So we often do a lot of challenges where our watches are covered up, and we have to do a pace and see how close we can get to that pace or a distance. This time it was heart rate related, so it was myself, Mo and Jess. We each had a heart rate zone, and for 20 minutes we had to run in that zone without having any looking at our watch.
It's a lot harder than you think. So we worked out heart rate variable, which is the difference between your resting heart rate.
Heart rate reserve.
Sorry, heart rate reserve, that's it. There is a variable, isn't there?
Yeah.
Is there a variable? No, I'll come back to you, Inspector Gadget, on this one.
Is that a glasses reference?
Heart rate reserve, which is the difference between your resting heart rate and your maximum heart rate.
Yeah.
And then the zones 1 to 5 in between. Sarah chose to run in zone
4.
Mo chose to run in zone 2. And Jess in zone 3. And
you chose to run in zone 4. What's the matter with you?
Yeah, I mean, I say chose. The producer gave me that zone.
Okay, right. Oh, I didn't know that. I thought you chose it.
It was less of a choice. However, I was quite happy with that choice because I'm 100% that person who is guilty of going out on an easy run, labelling it an easy run on Strava,
and it's all in
and
zone
then you
4.
Scroll down to my heart rate data and I got too excited and it was all in zone 4.
There were some surprising results. So Mo is obviously super fit.
Yeah.
He's a presenter on the Running Channel if you're just joining us for the first time.
Training for a championship time at the London Marathon at the moment.
He obviously had to run in zone 2, so he was going so slowly, but you've no idea how hard it is to try and stay in zone 2, which is actually where people should be doing most of their running?
Yeah, there's a lot of, if you Google zone 2, it's probably one of the biggest discussed things amongst runners. So maybe we just revisit very quickly heart rate zones and running. So the heart rate reserve you've just talked about is one way of measuring heart rate zones. The classic out of the box watch method that your watch will be set to is usually just a percentage of your max heart rate. So if your max heart rate is 200 and you're going at 80% of your max heart rate, then that's 160.
I reset my watch.
Right, after the challenge.
Yeah.
So when
did you do it or did I do it for you?
You did it.
Lesson behind the curtain. So another way of doing it is the heart rate reserve, which is the method you described, because the point of heart rate reserve is if your resting heart rate is 60, you can't use any of those first 60 beats because you need those just to sit down.
Yeah.
So then taking the gap between, if your max is say 180 and then 60, so you've got 120 usable beats. Yeah. And then you take percentages of that heart rate reserve. And that is our, I suppose, preferred method at the running channel that we recommend to people. And then that does make it, if you've got an accurate max heart rate and accurate resting heart rate, and you've adapted to this heart rate reserve method, it probably makes it slightly easier to stay in zone 2 because it makes your zone 2 slightly higher than it would be in other.
I think once you go to heart rate reserve, you'll never go back.
Oh, bold claim from Rick.
I mean, when have you?
Who may not have known it even existed this time last week.
I was going to say, genuine question. Have you ever looked at your heart rate during a run?
I look at it afterwards to see what it's done, but not during. Okay. No.
It is really useful. And my biggest tip, especially for anyone who might be in a training block right now, it can become really easy to just be fixated on numbers and paces. But actually for an easy run, it's so useful to just turn your watch screen into just heart rate and try and get it into zone 2 or 3 for that easy run or that recovery run, because you might surprise yourself. It might not go there and you might be surprised with how much slower you need to run in order to be in those zones, and that is really going to help you recover.
Yeah, and you can set alerts at either end of the zones as well to kind of nudge you back in.
Mm-hmm.
When you ran your latest marathon, Sarah, did you stay in zone 4 for most of it?
Oh, good question. I definitely went into zone 5, which is unideal in a marathon. But I think the majority of it probably was zone 3, then into zone 4, because you are going quite hard. Yeah,
so when I did Malaga, I was in zone 4 for almost all of it, didn't go into zone 5. But then when I do a park run at the weekend, I go into zone 5.
That's about right.
Speaking of park runs, here you're coming to hang out with me in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Well, this is the plan, to come and run with you and experience the hills.
Yeah. And then I'm going to go to you.
How many laps is it?
3 on ours.
3, that's what I thought. Yeah, after last week's episode, we were chatting about park runs and we were like, wouldn't it be nice if we just all went and visited each other's? So stay tuned for our report on whether Rick's been telling lies about how hard his park run is.
We did have
a
chat about whether we'd run together as well, though, didn't we?
Oh yeah, and Andy was like, absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
I was like, oh Rick, do you want us to pace you? We could help pace you. Andy was like, sorry, I won't be running with you.
Yeah.
Andy,
you want to lead it.
How's your week of running been?
Well, we had a note in our notes which was, Andy, how's your running going? And are you beginning to find your groove? No, still not finding my groove. I had some lovely messages though in the Running Channel Club from some people, and also just direct some comments and so on, because I'm definitely struggling with that mojo. And anyone else who's out there who's like, I'm not into this New Year's stuff and I don't feel like I've got into the groove. I haven't at all. I felt really tired, and it was the point of when I got injured a little bit during various points last year. It was always when I didn't listen to my body, and it was because I was too fatigued, I suppose, emotionally and physically to run properly and to enjoy it. So I'm trying to get that back, so that I feel ready to go again and I don't do myself some kind of injury.
You look like you got a bit more colour in your cheeks this week.
But I feel better this week, and it's...
Might be the glasses.
That's because it's not -4 anymore. Before we go on to Hyrox, can I just also give a quick shout out, which I feel like we should do in the lead up to spring marathons. If you're listening to this on one of your marathon long runs, well done. Good job for getting out, for braving the elements, and I hope you're having a good time. Don't be scared of the distance. You can do it.
It's really hard at the moment because a lot of people starting the 16-week programs for spring marathons, and it's been in the UK anyway, so icy. And I remember when I was training for London, I went over on a patch of ice in week 2 or week 3 or something, and didn't train then for 4 weeks because of it.
Oh, no.
Shakes you up and you get hurt as well, bruised and a bit sore.
If you're doing your long run on a treadmill because of the conditions,
Yeah.
That is tough.
Certainly, I know that's
that is so
tough.
impressive.
Yeah.
The guys that are out, we're talking about the weather here, but it's
sorry.
a bit pathetic compared to like
if it's
America
minus 20 where you are, it's all relative.
Yeah, it's all relative. Yeah.
And we've also we've been talking about, we don't want people to be scared of the marathon.
No.
There's loads of people listening who won't want to do a marathon and haven't ever done one. And at the same time, there'll be people taking one for the first time. You can absolutely do this. We are here to support you.
Yeah, if you don't want to do one, stand with you.
Rick's still protesting. I think you protest too much.
I stand with you.
At the sidelines,
because you know what it is? Because,
you know,
I can't wait to talk about Hyrox in a second, but the fear of doing a half and a full, the difference if your marathon half goes past the finishing line for the half finishes.
Very specific to Malaga, yeah.
Very specific. The mental image of that terrifies me.
Well, also Milton Keynes, we did a video with Mo, I want to say 18 months or so ago, nearly 2 years ago. And that's the same, that's 2 lap. But at least in Malaga it was 2 different courses where you carried on past the finish.
Correct.
Whereas in Milton Keynes you had to do 2 laps. And so you went within probably about half a mile of the finish and then kept going around for your second lap.
But just trust the training. Yeah. You don't need to worry about that distance right now. Just enjoy running the mile that you're in.
And I'm going to do a marathon this year. I'm doing another one and I'm going to get stuck in. Yeah. Not a spring marathon, but I'm going to do one later this year. Get back.
Are you doing a marathon this year?
I would like to. I tell you what, just quickly back to me. I have so much mojo right now, like so much. I have a newfound zest for life. Ooh. However, this cold that I've had since the 27th of December will not leave. And so I couldn't do my long run this weekend, couldn't do my interval sessions because I'm bunged up.
Yeah, well, I hope you're well for the National Running Show.
Well, I was going to...
Me too.
Yeah, I want some kind of mojo transfusion.
Just think of... Well, I like to use the passion and energy that I have when I literally can't run, when I can't get out the door.
Yeah.
I feel like the most motivated you ever are is when you're injured.
Yes.
Because you're like, I would love to get out in the rain right now, or I would love to get out in the sno. So that's what I'm channeling from all the months of injury.
When I'm injured, I'm like, do you know that? Remember the scene from Friends when Ross and Rachel are like, they're either on a break or they can't work it out or whatever, and there's rain just pouring down the window and they're both sitting in the window just staring longingly out of the Manhattan skyline. That's me when I'm injured.
You two.
Hyrox.
Hyrox. Do you know what it stands for?
No, what does it stand for?
Hybrid, cross, rockstar.
Hyrox. Is that real?
Really?
Yep.
Oh, I don't know whether it's now become really uncool.
Yeah, that's a little bit more cringe than I thought.
I feel
it
like
was.
You two are really. I've shocked you.
Yes,
you have.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, let's glaze over that because that might have ruined Hyrox for a lot of people. But if you've never heard of Hyrox, then we're going to go through what it is, why it exists, why so many runners are doing it. You might not have a marathon on your big goals list this year. You might have a Hyrox. Are you going to be any good at it? Let's go through.
Well, and it's essentially a brand, a bit like Ironman, which has then become synonymous with like long distance triathlon.
Yeah.
But there are other brands of long distance triathlon, and then CrossFit. A lot of people will have heard of CrossFit.
Yeah.
And then Hyrox. So it's a brand that's established this series of events all over the world where every single event is identical.
One thing that I didn't realise as well, and this is probably me being very naive, is that I feel like last year Hyrox was huge, like so big, and I hadn't really heard of it mentioned so much in the year before. So in my mind, it was so fresh and new. But actually, Hyrox was founded in Hamburg, Germany in 2017.
Yeah.
So it has been around, obviously, because it needs to grow. And I'm guessing lockdowns and kind of COVID put a halt to it growing as fast as it probably wanted to. But now it has become the world's largest mass participation fitness race, and it's got over 40 plus global races, which happened in 2023, 90,000 athletes, 50,000 spectators. On the spectator thing,
yeah, those are 2023 stats as well. I wonder what 2024 were, because it'd be even... And this isn't sponsored. We just think that this is a sort of this global phenomenon that's super relevant to runners, which is why we're talking about it.
It's also become a bit of a kind of buzzword in our office. So Stevie, who heads up the Running Channel Club, he loves Hyrox. He also ran the Malaga Marathon back in December last year and ran his first ever sub-3 marathon. And he really prompted this conversation of, well, if you are a really good runner, then does that actually help you? Because should we go through what a Hyrox is?
Yes, and it's the same everywhere. So it's often in like a exhibition centre like the NEC or something like that, where you need a big floor space to set out all of the equipment.
Yeah.
And it does mean that it should be whilst the layout might be slightly different, you complete exactly the same exercises in exactly the same order and run exactly the same distance, even if you're doing it in Hamburg or Las Vegas or Brisbane or Auckland.
It's the same everywhere.
Yeah. Because it is contained as well. I think that's why if you want to go and spectate, you do have to pay. I'm guessing just because there is like a capacity of the space, which does make it slightly less accessible than if you were going to watch your friend complete a marathon. But just
one of the guys in the office was saying that it's incredibly difficult to actually get a spot in Hyrox now.
Yeah.
So we're speculating which is harder, like one of the big city marathons like London or something, or Hyrox, which is harder, which is more in demand. I genuinely don't know.
I feel like a lot of people do use it as an opportunity to kind of go on like a weekend away and do it. And like, we're not hiding away from the fact that a Hyrox is expensive, but similar to like Ironmans or big marathons, they do come with a big price tag.
Yes.
But you could go and do a Hyrox workout in your gym, for example.
Yeah, and we're going to come back to why I actually think that, not all of the exercises are stuff I've done before, but I can see why they're functionally relevant to runners.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing here is CrossFit has been for 20 odd years, I guess, this massive phenomenon, but they have set routines that you can compete in. And I can't do any of the exercises. The weights are too heavy, or whether it's pull-ups or whatever, I wouldn't be able to complete the course, so I'd be there all day.
Whereas Hyrox, you can do it as a solo, you can do it as a team, you can do it as pairs.
Yeah.
If you do it with a partner as Hyrox doubles, you still do all of the running together. You can't split that up. There's 8 kilometers to run in total, but then you can divvy up the exercises. Yeah. So personally, I would be running 8K with my partner, and then I would choose someone who could do all of the exercises. So I didn't have to do any. But should we go through what they are? So it's 8 kilometers split up with exercises in between. So first you run 1K, then you have to do 1,000 meter ski erg. Have you ever done a ski erg, Rick?
That's when you pull down on ropes.
Yeah, correct.
So you're standing up doing a...
You know what the erg bit is?
Ergometer? Yeah, which is what, like a rowing ergo.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Followed by...
I'm saying that like I'm pretty confident.
I think it was ergonomics.
And then the sled push. What's the sled push?
Sled push is if there's always a section of the gym where there'll be like a big carpet that has a tape measure on it. And then there's usually that big metal thing with like a pole in the middle that you pile weights onto.
Yes.
That's the sled. So one exercise is a 50 meter sled push. So this is what Andy always talks about, where if he went and did, do you reckon you could do the open weight?
This is what I think I can do all of these exercises, but the weights are quite heavy. So you do have to train to get to this point. And that's why I think if you were going to the gym to start, you'd need to get a little bit of assistance from some of the PTs in the gym to make sure you don't just jump straight in at the competition weights. Because I would have to push, in the men's open category, I'd have to push 152 kilograms, 50 meters on the sled.
Which is quite harsh. In the pro category though, it's 202 kilograms. It's kind of similar to, when you see rugby people training and they're like pushing up against someone. That's similar to that movement.
Where's the
women's weights are 102 and 150. So the pro women do the men's regular weight.
What did you say, Rick? Where's the relief?
Where's the relief?
No, there's no recovery.
1K run, ski erg, 1K run, sled push.
1K run, sled pull.
That's slightly lighter, the weights on the sled pull.
Then burpee, broad
and
jumps.
You're pulling with a rope.
Kettlebell farmer's carry, sandbag lunges, wall balls. Where's the relief?
There is no relief. It's
the running the relief.
Yeah.
Well, kind of, but also you can do it.
It doesn't sound like much fun to me.
I think we should all do one together. I think we'd kill each other by the end of it if we did it as a team.
I'm up for doing one. I think that the things like, so the ski erg is a technique thing, and it's also quite an aerobic activity.
And the key with that one is to not go max all out, so that then you're really, really tired. So apparently a lot of mistakes that people make is it's first exercise. The whole thing with Hyrox is you are completing all of these movements as fast as you possibly can. Yes. So a lot of people go straight into the ski erg, do it as fast as they can.
Then if you have to walk your run because you're so tired,
then they crawl around the run course again. I tried to do a ski erg because there's one in my gym, and I set out to try and do 1,000 meters at some point last year. I managed 500 meters and I had to leave the gym. I was so tired.
Oh, wow.
It's so hard.
Rick just can't get on board with how hard it all seems altogether. No, I can see his face.
Do you remember?
Rick's like, and people do this for fun.
Yeah. So do you remember in our Christmas quiz, there was a question, what is the average marathon time?
Yes.
And I think was it 4 hours?
4:20 something, I think.
4:20. And nobody knows the answer to this, but Owen's going to look it up now. What is the average time to do a Hyrox?
I think the super fast people are doing it around about an hour.
No way.
I think, or maybe under an hour.
Yeah, under an hour is the kind of world champion I don't know what the world record is, but it's definitely like 50 something.
But I think that the
for
point,
women.
Oh, Owen, are you going to jump in?
Average men is 1 hour 35. Average women 1 hour 38. So if you think about it, it's kind of like
that's a long time. Isn't it?
It's between doing an all-out 10K and an all-out half marathon in terms of effort. Then in terms of those times.
It's kind of like the length of a film. I'd rather watch a film.
I mean, that's like,
I'm sure a lot of people would rather watch a film.
I don't really think that's the comparison that's up for grabs here, though, is it? It's not like go and do a Hyrox or just go.
I mean, I'm pretty sure in lockdown I stood in a queue for a supermarket for an hour and a half. I definitely prefer to do that.
But. Well, I think let's talk about the breakdown of the exercises. So yes, you are going 1K run alternating with these exercises, and then some of them are quite lengthy aerobic exercises, and some of them are definitely like functional strength exercises. But I do think that the strength is relevant. Like if you were training for this, I think that it would make you better at running. So you've got a 1,000 meter ski erg that's going to be aerobic and using your arms, which a lot of runners don't do.
And there's a lot of technique with that as well to make sure that you're using the like minimal amounts of your body that you need to.
Yeah, it's like with the regular rowing machine where you see, say, rugby players or very strong athletes who are pretty fit doing it and they're just thrashing backwards and forwards. Whereas you see one of the Olympic rowers doing an erg and it's so smooth. And I imagine that's the key here is technique.
It's efficiency.
Yeah.
Which is what you need for every single movement.
And then sled push, you've got to get low and you've got to drive. So that's going to be calf, quad, hamstring, glute, all of those things. They are heavy, so it's going to be pretty tough. Sled pull, again, you've got to brace yourself. You're going to be using your legs for the pull, but also your upper body. Burpee broad jumps. These sound absolutely horrible.
Now, this is one that I've watched a lot of videos on how to do this because a lot of people do it wrong. Yeah. So obviously in a typical burpee, you would be flat down on the floor, both legs jump up, and then you're like going up and down. In this, it's easier to bring one leg up at a time and then do as big a jump as possible and actually give yourself a beat on the floor to give yourself a little bit of a rest and then come up again.
Right. Yeah, it's quite a hard one to describe. But yes, you're trying to cover 80 meters of distance effectively doing a burpee. So if you're familiar with burpees, usually you jump up after almost like a press up on the floor. Yeah. And you're not trying to, but this time you're trying to travel forwards. Yeah. So and
just imagine the DOMs after this. Like, I'm sorry, delayed onset muscle soreness. No acronyms.
No acronyms.
Awful. Then you have a 1,000 meter row. So another kind of aerobic.
Yeah. And then it's a 200 meters. That's a long way. Yeah. Like half a running track. Yeah. Kettlebell farmer's carry. So you're carrying.
Grim.
For men,
grim, did you say?
Absolutely grim.
2 24-kilogram kettlebells, and for women, 2 16-kilogram. So I can attest to the fact that my grip strength is what would massive. I mean, all of my strength would let me down. but actually holding 2 24-kilogram kettlebells for 200 meters, I think I'd have to stop and put them down because my grip would let me down.
Yeah, which also, to be fair, let's address that. It is so fine to put stuff down. Like, don't fear having to stop. I've watched people go for world record attempts and they are stopping to put the kettlebells down, or they are taking a little break in the burpees. Obviously, some people will just go straight through, but in the same way as it's fine to walk in a marathon, it is so fine to stop during any of these exercises.
I do this over a week or something.
I mean, I struggle to carry the kettlebell from the rack in the gym to my mat 10 meters away. So I'm not quite sure how I do this one. And then sandbag lunges. Here's my issue. I'm not sure I could get 10 kilograms onto my back at this point.
You did say this is a problem in the gym.
Do the volunteers help load it on?
I don't know whether they do, actually.
This is a problem.
Because this is you've got to put it across your shoulders, and then you've essentially got to do continuous lunges, alternating legs to cover 100 meters.
Like, imagine if it fell off.
Can we do that?
I'd cry.
If your lunge is only, a meter or a meter and a half, depending on how long your legs are.
100 meters.
Then you're doing like at least 25 lunges each leg, probably.
What are wall balls?
Yeah, right,
wall balls. So imagine high up on a wall. Imagine like a basketball net, but slightly lower. You're carrying a ball,
like a weighted medicine ball.
Medicine ball.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You squat
9
down
kilograms for the pros,
and then you push it up as if you're about to shoot a goal, but instead it's just a flat target, higher for the men, slightly lower for the women, and it has to hit the middle of the target. This is the bit where
someone counts it, don't they? I've seen videos
someone counts it, and it's literally, you know, like in boxing when they're like 1, 2, 3, like they are. So Jess from the Running Channel has volunteered at Hyrox, and she was on wall balls, and she said it was absolutely savage because these people are broken at this point. Exactly. Like they have done so much. And then they give you something called wall balls, and then you have to go. I'm so sorry that last one wasn't correct.
But I'm reading. Is this a typo? 100.
100.
Do you know what? I think I might do a marathon.
So hang on. Do we need to give you a choice?
Excellent. The episode has worked. Sorry, guys. It was just a cover up to get Rick. Here's your options, mate. You can either do one of these or you can do a marathon.
It's escalated quite quickly, hasn't it? From a quite gentle, like, we're all going to go and do Rick's park run with him on a Saturday morning. 5K. We're just going to have a nice social to, would you like to do this Hyrox, which on average takes an hour and 35 minutes?
No.
And finishes with 100 wall balls where you've got to throw a 6 kilogram ball up in the air.
But to get back to the point of why we wanted to talk about it is that Stevie from our office, as we mentioned before, is a really strong runner, and he says that running gives you a huge advantage. He's gone up against a friend of his who is far stronger than he is, but actually because Stevie was running 10 to 20 seconds faster per kilometre, he ended up finishing faster overall. So if you are looking for a challenge...
Works both ways.
Give Hyrox a go, because also the other thing is that even if you never want to go and actually compete in a Hyrox, all of these exercises will help your running, and it's quite a fun way of working out that's a little bit different. It gives you that same thing of, I'm going to go and do a 5k run. It starts, I run 5k, I'm finished. I'm going to go do a Hyrox workout.
It complements your running.
I go and finish. And you don't have to do the full Hyrox. There are lots of kind of different variations or classes that you can go and do as well.
I would say that there's a brilliant thing, which is getting used to running on tired legs. Runners are already good at that. That's what you do in interval training, and that's what you might do as part of a marathon long run block where you've got some stuff at marathon pace when you're already tired on a long run.
Yeah.
But this is it's a sensation that you kind of never get used to, but the more you train running on tired legs, the better you get at it. And that's quite a good, mental thing. But I would say we need to...
Actually, if you want to run like a really hilly race, that sensation of where you've had to like run or maybe even walk up a hill, and then you get to the top and you have to carry that momentum and like carry on running again, maybe in an ultra or a shorter race. It's that similar thing of, oh God, my legs hurt so much. Now I need to go.
Yeah. What they need to do is, so it's a 1,000 meter ski erg, 50 meter sled push, 50 meter sled pull. What you need to do is divide everything by 10, and this would be more fun.
So 100 meter ski erg.
Yeah.
And 5 meter sled. Yeah.
1 meter run.
1 meter run.
That's not divided by 10, 100 meter run.
So I do think that is important. Loads of these exercises are ones you would never have done before, particularly the sled push and pull.
Be careful.
Like, don't just go out and try to do the Hyrox weights. Don't just try and grab the sled that's already loaded with weight from somebody else and just try and push it across the gym. You will hurt yourself. Build up to it. And also know that stuff that's in Hyrox here. So you're thinking about elevated heart rate for a prolonged period of time. A lot of these efforts are kind of that 3, 4, 5 minutes of elevated heart rate. So it's basically HIIT training, which is one of the better ways to improve your VO2 Max as well. So there's loads of stuff that can play into it here, but please be sensible.
Yeah.
Let us know if you're going to take one on. Email in podcast@therunningchannel.com. Maybe we'll come and join you.
I was sceptical about doing this episode, but I'm not anymore.
But are you going to do
because
a Hyrox?
You're going to sign up.
Let's do the news.
Okay, so news. Valencia 10K happened last weekend.
I feel like so much happens in Valencia.
They've sort of really become established as having some of the fastest courses. They've got their 10K, half marathon, marathon. Big prizes as well. I think they're offering €1 million if people can break, if a male athlete can break 2 hours there, for example, in the marathon.
Oh, wow.
Or they were. Not super relevant to any of us. But yeah, it's become renowned as fast regardless of the distance now. And they had the 10K over the weekend.
And then Olympic triathlon champion Alex Yee finished in the top 30 in the 10K events. And that's his first official running competition at that distance, I think.
Yeah, which is really cool. So we saw him get the medal in the triathlon in 2024, but now it's very cool that he's transitioned over to just a flat out 10K and is performing really competitively.
He'd done it on the track previously in his running career because he was an incredible runner all the way through the age groups, and even when he was had already started doing triathlon at the level that he's at. So I think he has run faster than this on the track at the night of the 10,000.
I see.
But 28:07 on the road is absolutely incredible because there's different records on the road and the track. And traditionally in the past, the track records were always way faster. But the gap is being closed by super shoes on the road.
And that is also in preparation for London Marathon, which we're going to see Alex Yee take on later this year. Yeah. But we have to talk about Rory Leonard breaks the 10K British record in Valencia. He knocked 6 seconds off the previous record set by Sir Mo Farah.
Yeah, so it's not a shabby record.
No, pretty hefty
very
record.
Proud one for me, this. I actually don't know Rory personally, but he is coached by my very close friend and coach, Andy Hobdell. Which is
know him.
Yes,
you do know him. So yeah, he ran 27:38.
That is insanely fast.
Done.
I bet Andy is very, very proud of that as well.
Yeah, he absolutely will be. He was buzzing. I've missed a call from him this morning, so I haven't spoken to him about it. I did take a screenshot though, because it's worth putting track and road in context. So 27:38 is phenomenal, but Mo Farah's 10,000 meter record on the track is 26:46.
Wow.
So
I see.
Quite a big difference. And the race in Valencia was super fast. It was won in 26:53.
Wow.
So the times are just absolutely mind blowing, aren't they?
Very cool.
Very good.
Pretty close to whatever it is, 2.5 minute kilometers.
That is nuts.
For 10K is crazy.
Should we do some questions?
Let's.
Can I ask the man with all the children whether he has heard of or utilised nerve flossing, also known as nerve or neural gliding?
Yes.
Ooh.
Have you heard of it?
I have, yeah. I have heard of it. It's not like Sarah can actually do the floss dance.
Yes, she can.
I can do a rainbow floss.
As can
well
at
done
least
with the
2
kids.
of my children. They're trying to get me to do it. I can't do it.
Okay,
It's not that.
It's not that. Okay, 2.5 years ago, I was struggling to run 2 kilometers without getting intense shin tightness. It happened on every single run. In other activities, I wouldn't get the strain. It wasn't shin splints, as the pain didn't linger and would subside shortly after I've stopped. Basically, there's a theory that sometimes what we confuse muscle tightness for is actually a tightness or trapping of the nerves between the musculature.
Musculature, yeah.
Yeah. He goes on. So, one night, I found a nerve glide for the nerve that runs down the anterior tibial muscle.
So the one on the front of your shin.
I did a quick and painless nerve glide that contorted me into an odd shape. And seconds later, I felt a release. What is going on here? Can Andy, man with children, explain how this works so well and why it isn't the first step we go to when trying to gain flexibility and relieve tightness and pain?
Yeah, and actually there was a few caveats in here as well.
Yeah, what's going on here?
From John, who says, if it wasn't already apparent, I have 0 medical training, hence why I'm asking me. I also have 0 medical training, but I do know what this is. So I'm not recommending this. It might not be for everybody in the right case. But it's the sort of thing you could ask your physio about, because I do know what it is and have done it, and it does make a difference.
Oh, tell me.
So it's exactly what John describes, really, that you can get the sensation of tightness, and that can be caused by little tears in muscles or the fascia of fascia around the muscles kind of not moving very freely and so on. And that's the more traditional, what you might use a foam roller for, or do some kind of dynamic exercises or some static stretches after you've warmed up for that sort of thing, or sports massage and so on. But there can be neural tightness. So you can get nerves that are slightly trapped and because nerves have to move freely in the same way as muscles do. And that's what a nerve glide is trying to make sure that the nerves that pass through a joint or a specific area of your body are moving freely and they're not restricted in some way. Because if you think about putting pressure or pinching on a nerve, then that causes pain or discomfort. And if it's at a low level, like it's somehow inhibited by the muscle tissue or the fascia or whatever in the body, then that might kind of present as a different kind of tightness. And so if we could maybe do a test right now. I don't know if the microphones are going to get in the way, but if you were to think about essentially doing almost like a hamstring stretch, but pulling your toes up, so you're sort of straightening your legs. I can feel that as like a nervy tightness behind the back of my knee. So what we're doing for those listening is
we're going to floss it. We're going to floss.
Well, I'm just going to see if you can feel a difference. So
okay.
If you were to in a seated position on a chair, and then you were to straighten one of your legs out in front of you, so then and pull your toes up towards you as well.
Yeah.
Then try hunching your shoulders and tucking your chin in. So like and if that makes it, and then at the same time as doing that, at the same time as doing that, flex your toe up and down. And if you can feel a difference in the level of tightness, then that's probably the way that your nerves are working. So it's a very amateur test.
So how do I floss it?
Well, the flossing would be doing a movement which continually takes your nerve back and forwards through that. This is why I'm not a medical expert, and this is why you need to see a physio first. So don't just randomly try this and hurt yourselves. But there's a correct way of doing it.
For reference, I felt absolutely nothing there.
But you're hyperflexible, right?
Yeah, I am hypermobile, so that's probably why. I was like, nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So so this can. It's something that I have done intermittently throughout my career, and that the physios will often test. And depending on what muscles you're feeling the tightness in, it's harder or easier to do it. So what we've just done there is probably calf, hamstring, and lower back and pelvis and so on. But
wow.
So John basically did this for a few weeks. So the nerve flossing or gliding, same thing. And then he was totally pain-free and tightness-free in the shin area.
The reason that I'm reticent to say just go and try it is that there's, depending on how you do it, like whether you have your kind of shoulders curled and your head tucked in and your foot pulled up to your shin, if you're not coordinating the exercise properly, then you might be stretching the nerve. And I don't know whether you're supposed to do that or not. But if what you're trying to do is get this, my understanding visibly was that the nerve can move through the tissue.
A little pendulum.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's sliding backwards and forwards. So you need to get that technique right. But I have heard of it. It is an interesting thing. Maybe go and Google it and look it up and read a better description than me. But
that was peak science.
That was peak science.
Go
us.
Yeah. Thank you, Andy.
I'm glad I could help.
Do you want to thank him?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
And thank you for listening or watching. And we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.